All right, welcome back. We are talking to financial therapist Jillian Knight about ways to talk to people in your life when it comes to money. You know, caring for parents is one of the most pressing issues facing our younger generation. And we've already discussed how women often take on more prominent caring roles. So, do you have any advice for women who want to bring the situation of parental care up to their parents before it becomes a necessity?
I actually started having this conversation with my own mom recently. I've seen instances where this wasn't talked about, where there was maybe some expectations of what was going to happen that were never discussed, the impact that that can have on a lot of different members of the family. So I have been approaching it and would encourage others to approach it early, like earlier than you not when you're in the middle of that situation, but ahead of time, even though it's uncomfortable and even though it feels like, do we have to do this yet? I think it makes for it makes for a better conversation, and it reduces some kind of unknowns and maybe some anxiety about what that might look like in the future when you can kind of get those expectations kind of out there and talked about. So whether it's caring for them physically or financially or otherwise, I think a great question that I would ask is what your plans are for retirement. What do you see that looking like, and what role, if any, do you see me playing in that? And so I think that just kind of a general sort of question kind of opens up possibilities for where that conversation might go. And then I do think it's a two-part conversation. It's a conversation with your parents, but then it's also conversation with your partner about, the plan for what your parents are expecting versus like what you're able to provide versus how your partner feels about that, and wanting to be able to get on the same page ahead of time and before it becomes sort of an issue that everybody has strong feelings about.
Yeah, it's really important because, by the time you need to have this conversation, it's terrible as it is to think about, your parents might not be in the mental state to have the conversation. There might be incapacity issues. So I love that you said getting on the same page, because it really feels like it's so easy for your parents to expect one thing of you and you to expect another thing from them. It's kind of defined our entire teenagehood, right? And now we have different expectations of each other, even into adulthood. I'll just kind of give you my perspective on it. When I brought up, my mother has some health issues as she's getting older, and one of the things that we brought up was a medical directive, a living will, so that she can make sure that she's telling me how she wants to be taken care of when she can no longer speak for herself. And I spent so long wondering how I was going to bring this up to her, because I don't want to, offend her or make her feel like I don't think that she's in a good place. But when I brought it up to her, surprise, she was trying to think of how to bring it up to me. So I think sometimes, even when we're on different pages, we're both trying to figure out a way to connect. And so sometimes it's just easier to take that plunge and just ask those
Yeah. Well,
questions.
and yeah, I would even just add in there knowing all of your parents' information in terms of like, where do they keep their passwords and where is all of their money? And if this is something that you're going to have to be sorting through, it can make it a lot easier to do that while grieving the loss, to already have that information so that that's like one less thing that you have to worry about.
Well, wonderful. I think that wraps it up for the parental question. In the next video, we'll kind of flip it a little bit, and we'll talk about what it means to become a parent in your relationship with money. Thanks again so much, Jillian.